Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Nervous System and Custody Support Circle. I'm Dr. Blake. I see many of you here in the room, and I've also received several private questions by email from people who didn't feel ready to speak aloud. I'll address those anonymously later. For those of you who choose to share today, please give a first name only if you wish, and tell us what brings you here. We listen without judgment. This is a space for honest experience, not advice or pressure. When you're finished, we'll hold space and then move to grounding. Who would like to begin?
Hi. I'm May. I didn't come for money or prestige. My husband's family made that clear every day. They looked down on me, bullied me, demanded things my husband and I had already agreed we wouldn't put our kids through. I even saw one of them give our young child a drink of beer. When I asked my husband to step in, he mostly stayed quiet. Felt like he was still under his mother's control during the custody fight. I finally said I can't do this anymore. I gave up my parental rights. I still love my children more than anything. I will always love them. But my nervous system was being shredded by the weekly contact, the undoing of chaos, the constant trigger. I chose distance so I could stay functional. I love my kids, but I could not keep sacrificing my own stability to keep fighting a system that was already stacked.
Hi, I'm Michael. After the divorce, my ex made every visit a war. The kids started repeating things that weren't true about me. Visits got shorter and supervised, then canceled. I spent everything I had on lawyers and still felt like I was losing them year after year. The child support and legal fees left me barely able to keep a place. Every time I tried to show up, I left more broken than before. Eventually, I stopped fighting for more time. I signed off on a reduced schedule and later stepped further back. I love my kids with everything in me. I will always love them. But my nervous system could not keep taking the rejection, the financial free fall, and the constant sense that I was the outsider in their lives. I chose to stop the bleeding so I could still be a person who might one day be steady enough for them if they reach out.
Hi, I'm Jordan. Man, where do I even begin? We were both pretty secular when we were together. After the separation, my co-parent joined a very strict religious group. Suddenly, the kids had to dress a certain way, follow rigid rules, and were told a lot of things that contradicted everything we had raised them with. The confusion in their eyes when they came back from that house was heartbreaking. I tried to stay involved, but every exchange felt like I was watching them get pulled into something I couldn't protect them from. And the hypocrisy of the sudden rules was constant. I finally said I can't keep doing the back and forth. I stepped back and let the other parent take primary responsibility. I love my children deeply. I will always love them. But my nervous system could not handle the ongoing cognitive dissonance and the fear of what was being planted in them week after week.
Hi, I'm Alex. After the divorce, my co-parent began a same-sex relationship. Now, let me make this clear, that's their life. And I don't have a problem with adults loving who they love. What I could not navigate was my child coming home full of questions. I didn't know how to answer without saying the wrong thing and feeling completely unprepared for a family structure that looked nothing like what we had started with. Every conversation left me anxious that I would either confuse them more or somehow just respect the other household. The constant internal scramble wore me down. Eventually, I told them I needed to step back. I love my child completely. I will always love them. But my nervous system was overloaded by the fear of saying the wrong thing and by the sense that I was failing at explaining a reality I myself was still adjusting to.
I'm David. My co-parent and I are a biracial couple. One of us African American, the other Caucasian. We have biracial children. In the beginning, there was no problem. We fully embraced their Afrocentric hair. My sister used to braid it, put beads in it, keep the traditional styles that suited their texture. After the divorce, when the children went to the other side of the family, the braids and beads were taken out. The hair was relaxed or given a permanent so it looked more European. The kids came back, ashamed of their natural hair because that side had called it ugly. Watching them start to hide who they are and feel embarrassed about something that used to be celebrated broke something in me. I tried to keep showing up, but every exchange felt like I was watching a piece of their identity get erased, and then hearing the shame it left behind, I finally stepped back. I love my children completely. I will always love them. But my nervous system could not keep absorbing the cultural erasure and the pain it was putting on them week after week.
Thank you for the courage it took for every person who spoke today and for those who wrote in anonymously. What I hear across all of these stories is not a single decision, but a repeated human pattern. Deep love for a child existing at the same time as a nervous system that has reached its limit. Many of you describe the same internal conflict. You still love your children. You want them to know that. And yet continued contact, or the fight to maintain it, kept reactivating trauma, cultural erasure, emotional abuse, financial collapse, identity confusion, or chronic invalidation. The body eventually treats that repeated activation as a threat. When the threat response stays switched on long enough, people often make the only move that restores basic regulation. They create distance. That distance can look, from the outside, like abandonment. From the inside it often feels like survival. The guilt you carry is real and expected. Guilt is the mind's way of saying, this does not match the story I was taught about what a good parent does. Society reinforces a very simple story. Once a parent, always fully present, no matter the cost. When your lived experience does not fit that story, the mismatch produces shame. People then place you in the same category as parents who harmed children or simply walked away without cause. That miscategorization is painful and inaccurate. Your accounts describe something different. Ongoing exposure to environments or behaviors that were actively dysregulating for you and, in several cases, confusing or shaming for the children. Naming that difference does not erase the loss. It simply refuses to let the loss be defined only by outsiders who did not live it. Clinically, what many of you are describing is the aftermath of prolonged high-conflict co-parenting combined with secondary trauma and, in some cases, identity or cultural injury. The work now is not to rewrite the past into a cleaner story. The work is to reduce the ongoing self-attack that keeps the nervous system activated. Guilt that stays stuck becomes another form of chronic stress. Guilt that is acknowledged, felt, and then gently placed beside the reality of what you could and could not sustain becomes information rather than a life sentence. You are allowed to hold two truths at once. I love my child. I could not keep exposing myself to that level of harm and remain functional. Both can be true. Holding both is more honest than forcing yourself into the single story society prefers. Maya, what you described. Being looked down on for your background, watching agreements about your children get overridden, seeing a young child handed alcohol, and feeling your partner stay silent under family pressure, is a particular kind of powerlessness. The weekly contact that kept reopening that wound is exactly the kind of repeated activation that exhausts a nervous system. Your decision to step back does not cancel the love you still carry. It reflects a body that could no longer stay in the fight without breaking. Michael, the pattern of blocked visits, poisoned narratives, mounting legal costs, and the slow erosion of your place in your children's lives is one of the most commonly reported experiences among fathers in high conflict cases. The financial free fall on top of the emotional rejection compounds the trauma. Choosing to stop the bleeding so you could remain a functional person is not the same as not caring. It is a recognition that you cannot pour from an empty and continuously attacked container. Jordan, watching a sudden and rigid belief system reshape your children's clothing, rules, and worldview after the separation creates a unique form of helplessness. The cognitive dissonance of seeing them pulled into something that contradicted the foundation you built together is destabilizing. Stepping back when the back and forth became unbearable does not erase your love. It acknowledges that constant exposure to that clash was costing you the ability to stay regulated. Alex, the overwhelm of trying to answer a child's questions about a family structure that looked nothing like the one you started with, while fearing you would say the wrong thing or somehow disrespect the other household, is a real and under-discussed stressor. The internal scramble itself becomes exhausting. Creating distance when that scramble never quieted is not a rejection of your child. It is a boundary around a level of confusion and anxiety your system could no longer carry alone. David, the experience of watching Afrocentric hair that had been celebrated, braided, beaded, cared for in traditional ways, be altered into a more European style, and then seeing the shame appear in your children's faces, is a cultural injury on top of the custody conflict. Identity erasure lands in the body as a threat. Your nervous system registering that repeated loss and choosing distance is a coherent response to ongoing harm, not a failure of love. I also want to acknowledge the anonymous messages that were sent in. These stories carry a different kind of weight, the weight of silence, stigma, and guilt. I will summarize them here, keeping every identity protected. Being placed in the same category as parents who harmed or casually abandoned their children is inaccurate and isolating. The fear of being asked, "What happened?" and having to reopen the entire story is a legitimate reason many of you stay silent. For the person who briefly reconnected with an adult child online and then stepped back after seeing continued ties to the original source of trauma, that trigger response is the nervous system protecting itself from re-injury. And for the parent who endured physical abuse, police bias, and the modeling of harmful relational patterns in front of the children, choosing full custody for the other parent while keeping your name available was an attempt to stop the cycle you could not change. In each of these accounts, the love is still present. The distance was the available form of self-preservation. You are not required to explain your full history to every curious stranger. You are allowed to protect the peace you fought to create. And you are allowed to keep loving your children from whatever distance your system can currently sustain. Before we wrap up, I want to ask one more time. Is there anyone who was afraid to speak earlier who feels comfortable now? Yes, you, in the green shirt. Would you like to share your story?
Dr. Blake.
My name is Jeremy. I'm sorry I didn't speak earlier. But after hearing everyone else, I realized I wasn't alone after all. And the stigma I face is brutal. People say to me, "Oh, you gave up your parental rights because you didn't want to pay child support. Selfish, lazy. You just didn't want responsibility." I heard it from my family. I heard it from my so-called friends. I had to move away just to escape the judgment. But that's not the truth. The truth is, my ex-partner used me. When we were dating, she talked constantly about having children. How many, what their names would be, what they'd look like. I thought it was normal relationship talk. I was young. I was new to dating. I assumed she was just excited about our future. We had a plan. Finish school, get stable, then start a family. But unbeknownst to me, she stopped taking her birth control pills. She didn't tell me. She didn't ask. She just decided. When the first baby came, I thought, okay, we started early, we'll adjust. But it kept happening. Child after child, 4 in total, 2 boys, 2 girls, exactly the dream kids she described when we first met. I dropped out of school to support the family. I stepped up. I worked. I did everything a father is supposed to do. Then out of nowhere, she filed for divorce. Irreconcilable differences, she said. And that's when I learned the truth. She already had another partner. She used me because she wanted my genetics. My height, my athletic build, my melanin. She wanted her children to look a certain way. I didn't hear this from rumors. Her own family told me. Her brother even shared a recorded call where she admitted it. I was devastated. I loved her. I loved our kids. But seeing her happy with another man, raising children she created with me for reasons that had nothing to do with love, it broke me. Every visit hurt. Every exchange hurt. Every reminder hurt. Eventually, I stepped back. Not because I didn't want to pay child support, I did pay. Not because I didn't love my kids, I loved them deeply. But because I couldn't mentally survive being reminded that I was used, I feel guilty. I feel horrible. But I couldn't stay in a situation where my entire identity as a father was built on deception. Dr. Blake, I need to know if anyone else has ever gone through this. Has anyone else ever been used for their genetics? And when they realized it, they couldn't handle being part of the situation anymore.
Jeremy, thank you for sharing your story. And to answer your question, yes, there are people who have lived this exact experience. In anonymous forums, private support groups, and confidential counseling sessions, individuals have shared stories of being valued for their appearance, their height, their build, their ethnicity, their melanin, or their genetic traits, not for who they are. It is more common than people realize, but almost no one talks about it publicly because the shame is enormous. You were not selfish. You were not avoiding responsibility. You were not running from child support. You were confronting the emotional devastation of discovering that your role in the relationship was built on a motive you never consented to. Your nervous system reacted exactly as expected. You stepped back because the psychological injury was too great. And like every person in this circle, you ended your story with the same truth. You love your children. You always have. You always will. Your story belongs here, and you are not alone.
Before we close today, I want to acknowledge something openly. Everything we discussed in this room was heavy. Every story carried weight, every truth carried years of silence. And every person here shared something that most people never say aloud. I do not want anyone leaving this session carrying the same heaviness they walked in with. I do not want your nervous system to stay in the place these stories took you. I do not want your body to hold the tension of what you revealed or what you heard or what you remembered. When conversations go this deep, the mind listens, but the body absorbs. So before we end, it is important, clinically, emotionally, and physiologically, to bring your system back to center. Not to erase what was said, not to minimize what was shared, but to make sure you leave grounded, steady, and safe. We are going to take a moment to settle the room, to settle your breath, to settle your heartbeat, to settle the parts of you that were stirred today. This is not a ritual. This is not a performance. This is simply a way to help your body understand that the danger has passed. The stories have been spoken, and you are no longer carrying them on. Let's begin the grounding. First, place both feet firmly on the floor. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the support that exists outside of conflict, outside of custody battles, outside of judgment, outside of the narratives people tried to force on you. Now take a slow breath in. Hold. And release. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands rest without gripping anything. Everything shared today was heavy. Your body felt it. Your nervous system registered it. Your breath changed because of it. So now we give your body permission to return to center. Breathe in again. Hold. Release. Let the breath carry out the shame that was never yours. Let it carry out the labels that were never accurate. Let it carry out the assumptions people made without knowing your story. You did not give up your child. You gave up the war. You did not walk away from love. You walked away from harm. You did not fail. You protected the only part of you that was still intact, your nervous system, your sanity, your ability to keep living. Place your hand over your chest. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm is proof that you are still here, still capable of healing, still capable of connection, still capable of love. Now breathe again. In, hold, release. Let your body understand what your mind has struggled to accept. You made a decision under pressure, not out of neglect. You made a decision from survival, not abandonment. You made a decision that kept you alive. Your story is not a story of failure. It is a story of endurance. Your truth is not a truth of abandonment. It is a truth of protection. Your love is not a love that disappeared. It is a love that had to step back to survive. Now breathe one more time. Hold. Release. As we close this session, carry this mantra with you, a grounding phrase you can return to whenever guilt tries to rewrite your story. I stepped away from the conflict, not from love. Say it silently. Say it gently. Say it until your nervous system believes it. You may stand when you are ready. You may leave when you feel steady. And you may return to this grounding whenever your past tries to speak louder than your present. You did not give up your child. You gave up the war.
Opening the wound, I walked into a room of quiet hearts, stories trembling in the dark. Every voice carried years of pain, every silence carried someone's name. I listened as the truth took shape, every parent trying to escape a battle they never asked to fight, a war that stole their sleep at night. The weight of judgment, they said I walked away too soon, said I left my child in the afternoon, said I didn't try, didn't care, didn't stay, said I threw my whole life away. But they never saw the nights I cried, never saw the war inside, never saw the fear I carried, never saw the wounds I buried. The breaking point, some fought families full of pride, some fought lies that split the mind, some fought faith that changed the rules, some fought shame that made them fools, some fought bodies breaking down, some fought culture stripped and drowned, some fought truth they never chose, some fought love that wasn't close. The quiet confession, I didn't give up my child, I gave up the war, I didn't stop loving, I just couldn't take more. My heart stayed open, my love stayed strong. I stepped away so I could hold on. The hidden stories, some changed their names to stay alive, some moved away so they could survive. Some reached out once, then pulled away, triggered by the past they couldn't face. Some saw their children grown and tall, but feared the voices from the hall. Some learned they were used for genes, for melanin, height, or family dreams. Some stepped back because truth was cruel, some stepped back because they were fools, some stepped back because pain was loud, some stepped back because they weren't allowed. The universal truth, I didn't give up my child.
I gave up the war.
I didn't stop loving, I just couldn't take more.
My heart is still open.
My love didn't fade,
I stepped back from the fire
so my soul could be saved. I didn't give up my child.
I gave up the war. Healing realization,
I am not the names they say,
I am not the shame they lay.
I am not the story told by people who never saw me fall.
I am human,
Bruised and torn,
trying hard.
to stay reborn.
I stepped away to breathe again,
But love remained beneath my skin. Rising from the ashes, one day the truth will find its place. One day my child will know my face.
one day the world will understand why I let go
Of the burning sand, I didn't leave love,
I left the pain,
I didn't leave hope,
I left the strain.
I didn't give up my child. I gave up the war. I am not the shame they speak, I am not the label we.
I am someone who survived the storm.
I stepped away to stay reborn. I didn't give up my child, I gave up the war. Relinquishing my parental rights was the step my nervous system needed to return to safety. Relinquishing my parental rights was the step my nervous system needed to return to safety. Relinquishing my parental rights was the step my nervous system needed to return to safety. Relinquishing my parental rights was the step my nervous system needed to return to safety. Relinquishing my parental rights was the step my nervous system needed to return to safety. I didn't give up my child, I gave up the war.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining the circle today, and to those of you listening as well. Before we end, I need to make something perfectly clear so there is no misunderstanding. I am Dr. Blake, a fictitious therapist created for the purpose of this educational scenario. The stories you have heard were written to give voice to experiences that remain heavily stigmatized. These are not the only reasons a parent might step back. There are many more. Some individuals live with mental illness and conclude that full placement with the other parent is safer for the child. Some face unstable or unsafe housing, infestations, structural damage, or conditions they cannot currently fix. Some are actively struggling with addiction or recognize that their own behavior is not safe for the child at this time. Some simply lack the financial stability the other household can provide. The list is long. No one outside a situation knows the full picture, and there is no single correct response that fits every family. We commend the parents who stayed. Many people have lived through the exact kinds of conflict, cultural erasure, religious shifts, ongoing arguments and exchanges, or identity confusion described here, and they remained in the shared custody arrangement for the full 18 years. Their nervous systems paid a high price. Some went through years of therapy just to keep showing up. That endurance deserves recognition. Even after a child turns 18, practical and emotional ties often continue. Medical emergencies, family coordination, and lifelong connections do not always end cleanly with a birthday. Those who carried the weight the entire way have done something difficult and worthy of respect. At the same time, we do not judge the parents whose nervous systems reached overload and could no longer continue. When the body stays in prolonged fight or flight, survival responses take over. For some, creating distance becomes the only way to remain functional. That decision does not automatically erase love for the child, nor does it place those parents in the same category as those who harm or casually abandon. Different nervous systems have different limits. Different lives carry different wounds. The point of this piece is not to prescribe one path. It is to reduce the silence and the blanket shame that surround both choices. The choice to stay through years of cost, and the choice to step back when the cost becomes unsustainable. Both groups of parents exist. Both deserve to be seen without being reduced to a single moral judgment.